Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on Making Language Learning a Family Matter, how to engage parents to increase student success. Our webinar today is being presented by Jack Aylsworth, the technology coordinator over at Cincinnati Public Schools. This event is part of our Using Technology for Language Learning Instruction professional learning community on EdWeb. The recording, slides, and chat log will be posted in the webinar archives folder of the community. As a member of the community, you can access all past webinars and take CE quizzes to earn certificates for each of the recordings you view. If you're attending today's live session, you will receive an email including your CE certificate to the email address that you use logging in today. You will receive that email within 24 hours. If you're viewing the recording or you joined us live by phone, you will need to join the Using Technology for Language Learning Instruction community and take and pass the CE quiz. Again, this webinar is being sponsored by Rosetta Stone. We offer different options for you to provide parental engagement opportunities for your parents to learn language learning. You can always contact us by reaching our website, rosettastone.com/grade12. You could also join us on our social media, Facebook and Twitter. Also, we will be live tweeting during the event. So we would love to know what types of parental involvement programs you have initiated in your school district. So please share your stories with us. And we will go ahead and begin our webinar. First off, I will present our presenter today. Like I mentioned, we have Jack Aylsworth, who is currently a passionate integrator of technology in the Cincinnati Public School Districts. Through his previous experiences and involvement in school districts and as an educational systems engineer, operations manager, and a general manager of a highly successful computer reseller, Jack understands the challenges and the multitude of nuances involved in empowering students and parents. He has been leading the implementation, training, and support of this multi-million 5-year grant, bringing ESL students and their parents an immersion program to learn English in partnership with Rosetta Stone. Today, our charter and our objectives, we will discuss parental involvement and parental engagement and why it matters. We look forward to understanding some of the challenges faced in integrating a parental engagement program, establishing value for leveraging online English learning as part of a parental involvement initiative, and also explore CPS or Cincinnati Public Schools successful parental involvement implementation and discuss high-impact engagement strategies. Jack, the floor is all yours, so you can go ahead and take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. I am excited to share our story with you. As was stated, I'm actually the technology director for the grant itself, and we'll get into those specifics a little later. But let me tell you about Cincinnati Public Schools. We're the third largest district in Cincinnati. As you can see by the slide, we have a lot of teachers, 3,000. And 33,000 students. In our district, we have represented in different schools and in different capacities these students of over 100 countries, and 70 different languages. Our ESL population at the present time is 2,400 plus. And one of the major reasons that we went after this grant, which we'll talk about a little more in detail a little later, was because of the influx of immigrants and refugees into our district. We called our grant Future Class for Diverse Learners. There were professional development opportunities for all the teachers involved and teachers that wanted to get involved with SIOP and ESOL, technology integration, and most importantly, the parent and multilingual community support that we really wanted to generate right off the bat when we started this program. Our three major goals: communication and collaboration with the parents of these ESL students. We also wanted to build capacity within our own organization to address this ESL influx. And we also wanted to partner with outside community resources because we knew that we couldn't get to all the parents simply by inviting them to our schools. And then part of this technology was, probably part of the grant was providing technology and resources so that we could create a program that was sustainable over the course of 5 years. Program detail, this grant was over $14 million and it spans 5 years. It was applied for and supported by Maria Kobayashi, who is in charge of our foreign language department. And Cincinnati Public Schools and the district has been very, very supportive in actually giving us just about anything we wanted to get this initiative off the ground. Technology was a major consideration. Not all of our school buildings, of which there are 54, had current technology. We were graced with the fact that we could spend a few $1 million on new technology. So we went out to each of the school buildings, and we started off with 7 schools as pilot schools. And I met with each one of the technology coordinators at the buildings, if they had one, as well as the principal there. And we talked about Christmas in June because we had to gather information regarding what they had, what they perceived they could do with technology, and also listen to our input and our suggestions in regarding technology use. Software was going to be a major important role in this. We decided that we would go with Rosetta Stone because we wanted parents, students, our staff to be able to get to this language learning regardless of where they are. And with Rosetta Stone, that made that possible and makes it very quick and easy. And we'll touch on that a little later in the program. Support, as you can imagine, is of the utmost importance when it comes to a rollout of a 5-year program. We have a program within Cincinnati Public Schools called Technologist-in-Residence. And what that means is there is a dedicated person in these, specifically for these 7 schools, that we put on site. So someone that understands technology, someone that is involved and passionate about education, basically resided within these buildings to provide the ongoing support that was needed to kick this program off. The question, why involve the parents and community? The president said it best, and I think it's worth repeating. There's no program and no policy that can substitute for a parent who's involved in their child's education from day one. What we know, parent involvement in student outcomes, this is kind of pretty self-explanatory. One of the issues I'm going to point out right here is more homework completed. As a parent myself, I remember the days when we used to help my kids with their homework. It's difficult and can be very frustrating when a parent that doesn't speak English is trying to help their students, and in many cases cannot. So that becomes an issue maybe within the family itself in relationship to how the parent feels about themselves and the education system. We have found that fewer special education placements are a result of this. Greater positive attitude and behavior in the students, higher grades because they've got that kind of support at home. And why focus on ELL parent involvement? As I said before, the involvement of the parents and the happiness of their children and the feeling of engagement and belonging within our school district hinges on our ESL population and their parents feeling comfortable and safe within our environment. That was an essential guide to our planning and how that we can reach out to parents, because the student portion of it, I hate to say cut and dried, but implementing a technology and a resource within a classroom is a lot easier, more direct than what it is when you're trying to gather parents and bring them in. And so we worked on a number of different programs, and did a lot of meetings on how best to engage those parents and what we can do as a team to get them involved. Strategies. This really kind of breaks it down. The flexibility is of extreme importance. I, as the person in charge of technology and basically helping roll this out in all of our school buildings, found very early on in regards to parents that there are issues that prevent parents from getting to school. Most often, transportation issues. Flexibility is a key issue when it comes to parents, and communication to those parents was actually a secondary issue. We need to get the word out. We need to let these parents know that we have something just for them in relation to their child learning English in our schools. We have a program where they too can learn English at no cost to them. They have the opportunity of participating in the same program their child does, regardless of where they're at, as long as they have an internet connection. Hospitality was also a very important part of this. Our group over at Roberts Paideia in the International Center kind of set the bar very high when it came to welcoming immigrant and refugee parents. For example, every Tuesday they have a coffee hour from 8:30 to 11:30, and any parent of an immigrant or a refugee student can come and participate, get to know other parents, and it's at those times that I've done a lot of training for parents. But we wanted to make them feel very, very comfortable and wanted them to know that we want them there and that we would give them a place where they could feel comfortable and associate with other parents. Ongoing support is a critical factor. After our pilot school experience, we found and streamlined and basically refined how we would go about our ongoing support for the next 4 years. As I said, our Technologist-in-Residence program is a key factor because I have resources within those buildings that can very quickly and easily go to another building to provide that type of support. I offer myself up just about 24/7 if there are any issues or problems or questions regarding our families and their execution of the Rosetta Stone program, regardless of where they're at. I've answered questions regarding, I can't get on it in a library, so we do a lot of troubleshooting via email or on the telephone. That ongoing support is something that they greatly appreciate. They know that if they don't get it the first time, they can certainly call Jack or contact Jack and get that situation taken care of. And I mentioned communication earlier, which is a critical part. We have done just about everything that we can think of to get the word out, not only sending the traditional paperwork home with kids, we do after school invitations. I have attended, I don't know how many different parent teacher conferences where they have let them know that I'm there and for what reason and for what purpose. So communication is always an ongoing thing, and it's always something that we fine tune. A little research, and you'll see from the Department of Education, this is 2001. You can imagine what it's like now. 97% of K-12 teachers, and I'm sure you guys as teachers are in that group, want parents to get involved in their classrooms, not only at home, but also to get involved with their classrooms. They would love to have a greater integration with the child and the parent with the school. 52% more than students are low-income parents. We have that situation here. We do everything that we can to accommodate that and make access to the school, the teachers, and the programs available as easily as possible. Parental involvement. Let's talk about this. I'm going to wet my whistle. I'll be right back. Parental involvement, communication. Once again, you see that word. We knew that the most important thing in the beginning of this program, the beginning of this grant, was to be able to get this out to the parents. A great program is only as successful as the participation of your intended audience. And with that in mind, we went to great lengths to become involved with the parents at their site. And what I mean by at their site is whether it is at their home, well, not at their home collectively, but I have made house calls, but in their school building, if they are involved with outside resources, we'll get a little bit into that later because that's become a critical factor most recently with their involvement. And then also training and support. Many of our parents come from different countries. Many of them don't speak English. Many of them don't have technology capabilities or technology expertise when it comes to computers. But one thing that so many of them have is a smartphone. And with a smartphone, you can use Rosetta Stone no matter where you're at. So even if they don't have a computer at home, even if they don't have access to a computer elsewhere, like a family member, or maybe can't get to the school because of transportation issues, they can certainly continue their education learning English with a smartphone. Parental involvement in a number of different areas. I'm going to start with our district support. As I mentioned earlier, our district was just overjoyed to be able to address this problem. As you know, it's a growing problem all over the place. We decided to make it a priority at Cincinnati Public Schools because of the tremendous influx of new students from outside the United States and also migration of different families into Cincinnati. And it's important, I think, from my experience, that the district pick this up and run with it. It becomes part of the culture. It becomes part of what your school district is and becomes, if you sustain that type of support and the parents know that, hey, my school district's here for me. CPS has programs in place for me and for my children so that I can better know what's going on and be better informed. Our Technologist-in-Residence program, as I mentioned before, I can't say enough about that program because it provides immediate on-site support if a child or a teacher that's using Rosetta Stone encounters difficulties or technological issues within the classroom. They're there to help them out. Our Technologists-in-Residence, because of the training that Rosetta Stone gave us, can offer them advice, can offer them ideas in creating curriculum, integrating this into their classroom. How much time is it going to take? Do I have what it takes to be able to do it? I'm going to go back to the technology piece regarding the grant and the great monies that we had in order to buy technology. And I'll give you an idea. We put 4 laptop carts of 32 machines per cart in each of our 7 pilot schools. Those carts are dedicated to our ESL program, to our ELL students. Our Technologists-in-Residence within those buildings maintain those carts. We kind of kept them out of bounds for other use, which, as you can imagine, can be kind of difficult. But the reason we did that is critical. And that reason is we know that the technology, the computers, the iPads, the tablets that these kids are going to be using work the first time, every time. There's nothing more disheartening than a student that's ready to go and is looking forward to their English lessons expressing displeasure or frustration because the technology doesn't work. So we have basically taken that variable out of the equation for their success in our Technologist-in-Residence program and dedicating hardware for the program itself. Community organizations have most recently become extremely important and very valuable within our contact with parents. And I'll give you an illustration. I work very closely with Catholic Charities here in Cincinnati. They have a refugee program and an immigrant program. They asked for assistance because they found out that we had this program going on at Cincinnati Public Schools. So I met with them. And because of our contract, we can offer this to parents of CPS students. So I made that clear up front that they had to be CPS students. But they were extremely interested in having their staff trained to familiarize themselves and know how this Rosetta Stone program works. And were extremely interested in getting accounts for their parents. First meeting I had with them and their parents, they had a full house. So there were over 25 parents that showed up. And if I remember correctly, there were 6 or 7 different countries represented. We had people from Bhutan, Nepal, Nicaragua, Guatemala. They were from all over the place. And a key success factor here were translators. Dealing with migrant and immigrant populations, they have translators on staff. They bring translators in. And that in itself has always been a key to success with our involvement with the ELL parents. They come to us not knowing English. It's very difficult to try and bring them into our program without some type of language representation on their part. So we spent a lot of time working with different groups around Cincinnati so that we could set up times that we could bring translators in for all of the different languages that were being represented within our classes and were being represented within our meetings. Of course, communication involving translation, the good old paper. We have, as most school districts do, a vast library of important information that we send home with students regarding all aspects of the Cincinnati Public School District. We decided that it was another very important issue to have this online. We hired a company that took all of our paper documents that related to parental involvement and had them all translated into a number of different languages so that a parent or a child could help a parent guide them to where these documents are stored, could pull that document up on a computer screen and print it in their own home or print it at the library. If they're involved with a welcome center or some type of organization within one of our school buildings, they can certainly get that done there. But we made available to them via translation and digitization of all those paper documents, something that they themselves could go look up and find. And the fact that it was in their language made them much happier than trying to have it translated, and in some cases by their own child, as to what this document contains and why it's important. Training parents regarding technology. You will find, and I'm sure you have already, that many of our parents don't have a lot of technology skills. They're somewhat familiar or totally unfamiliar with computers and how they operate. We took it upon ourselves within the grant, recognizing that, to say, hey, what can we do to help parents gain enough education and enough experience, more importantly, on a computer in regards to operation of our Rosetta Stone classes. And we have done, we have a program called Easy Tech that we have available for every student in our district. I used that licensing from Easy Tech and created classes for our parents. So I would create a class for them, I'd get them together, and we would step through everything as fundamental as where the on-off button is on a computer to what the mouse does, and little fun exercises on rolling the mouse around and watching the cursor on their screen, because some of them had never used a computer before. So we took whatever time and how many times it was necessary to get those parents familiar enough with technology so that they could use Rosetta Stone. And that was I have to say, one of the more rewarding things that I was involved with as a trainer, because you could just see their faces light up when they got it. And you knew that they knew that this was a very important step for them because of the acceleration of technology throughout our lives, and especially as it applies to their kids within our school systems. One of the key areas that I found immediately was this patience factor. Regardless of how simple or in some cases how silly a question or a comment may be about technology, whatever time and whatever length the explanation or the demonstration was to accommodate the answer to their question, I took. And patience throughout our entire program has become a critical factor because we know the program. We're involved in the program, but we don't have the backgrounds that our parents do, regardless of what that background is. And so patience is of the utmost importance in any aspect in dealing with our patients, with our parents. And you can tell very easily in our little reward section here. We gave them certificates on completing different computer education courses through the program that I talked about earlier. And the reward for them was immense because they could now participate in the same program that their kids were at school and learn English along with their kids. And in some cases, we have students and parents doing side-by-side study time, if you will, with the students program that come out of the schools, as well as the parents. Here's a little step-by-step that I went through when I started working with our community organizations. As I said, there's Catholic Charities. There's another one that I like to mention. It's called Education Matters, run by a terrific lady named Nancy Sullivan. And the organizational structure portion of this, and I'm just going to kind of walk this through because you might be interested in how to work with outside organizations that are interested in providing this kind of service for your parents. I wanted to know the structure of the organization. Who's in charge of what, where is your technology resource, who can I go to if I experience troubles or questions, and who's going to be helping me with organizing these classes, with bringing me the information that I need to set up accounts for their clients and maintaining those accounts. And also when the training comes around, are they going to have what I deem absolutely necessary there, technology-wise and also staff-wise. Their presence there, as well as necessary translators, made it a breeze. Because I have a captured audience that is there for the same thing, to learn English with a burning desire. And I've got all the resources I need to do that. I've got the technology checked out. I know that it works. I've got staff that these parents have been dealing with and are familiar with and comfortable with. And I've got translators that are running around the room with me in overcoming problems or questions that they may have in operating this. The staff training was a pleasure to do with these organizations because they were as enthused as the parents were in being able to have access to this program and adding that into the bag of tools to help these parents get adjusted to life, to get settled, to get going in this new country, in this new world for them. And the client training is always the most rewarding part for me, being able to bring this to them in an environment that they feel comfortable with, and with the knowledge that I know they have in their hearts, to have a burning desire to learn this. And so the classes are always filled with laughter. The classes are always filled with smiles, the furrowing of brows, because they may not understand where they're at and what they're supposed to do at that point. but with the combination of their staff and our translators, it was very easy to see that smile at the end of each of the sessions and see them walk out with a sense of pride, knowing that, I think I know how they feel. I think I know that they have that, yeah, I can do this type attitude when I come back the next time. And that support, that being there for them, means the world to them. Take my word for it. One of the things that we offered very early on, after we got our pilot schools figure out and determine what works and what doesn't work and how's this going to work, was offering this to our entire staff. And that was a dream of Marie Kobayashi's from the very beginning. If we had our teachers and our administrative staff, that person at the front counter that said "Buenos dias" to a parent in the morning, or could speak to them in maybe some little terms and help them identify the fact that, yes, I'm on your side. Yes, we can do this for you, and you are so welcome here. Our teachers signed up in droves, and I did a summer program where I spent the entire summer teaching staff in their buildings. And the technology access portion, this is the reason why I put this up here, is because I was in different buildings, not necessarily associated with our pilot group. And as I said earlier, the technology structure, so that when a student sits down, whether it's a child, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a staff member within a building, that they can get right to that technology without having hiccups, just makes the experience not only more enjoyable, but makes that experience more meaningful. So I scheduled whatever it took over the course of that summer to meet with teachers in their own environment and set those classes up for them so that they could begin to learn a foreign language. And we opened it up to them. Many of them, probably 95% of those teachers within those buildings, took to learning or requested languages of the majority of the ELL students that were in their buildings. But we offered up the whole kit and caboodle, if you will, to them. They could learn a foreign language on their own, whether it was Italian or Chinese or Arabic. And it just opened up an entire new world for them. Welcome centers, I mentioned earlier, and a welcome center could be nothing more than a quiet space, someplace in a library, someplace in a meeting room, someplace within that building, your school building, that you can make your ELL parents welcome and feel comfortable in. Hospitality, and I'm going to go back to my Roberts Paideia people and their international their welcome space. They provide coffee and juice and donuts and bagels in the morning. If it's an afternoon situation, they'll bring in little finger sandwiches and food that's appropriate for that time of day. And they always love that. Translators, we've talked about that before, haven't we? Translators are a necessary element anytime you have an audience that you're going to have people that don't speak English. And rewards, what can I give these people to excite them, these parents, to get them to come and get them to come back? We spent money to buy Kroger gift cards, Kroger grocery gift cards, $25 increments, and we bought hundreds of them. And we offered those to our parents in all kinds of different situations, to attend a meeting, to attend training. Since we've got the program off the ground and it's hugely successful, we've offered $25 Kroger cards depending on what level they reach, and have had tremendous response from that. We have offered iPads to students for that type of accomplishment, and we have also offered iPads for parents for those types of accomplishments too. The reward for them personally is important, but also we like to throw in something else to get them excited about, oh, what's next from these guys? What are they gonna be doing, and how can I keep myself excited as a parent going about learning this? Let's talk about challenges. Economic considerations are important, and that relates to technology, whether they have the capability of putting a computer or have a computer in their home. Keep in mind, just because they have a computer doesn't necessarily mean they have internet access. And because the program is available via internet access, that's a consideration, and that's something that we look into and oftentimes try and find out so that we can offer alternatives to them if they can't do that within their own home. Educationally, once again, the classroom environment that we bring to our parents, whether it's beginning computer literacy or whether it's actual use of our program, is important, and we let them know that, hey, we've got everything that's necessary for you to come into our environment. That's for you, that you can get a fast start with our program and be successful with it ongoing. Understanding the culture behind different cultural aspects from different parental groups was a lot of fun. Directing our hospitality specifically in that area was greatly appreciated by them. A lot of emotional stress, as you well can imagine, goes on within a family for a variety of reasons. That also is taken into consideration because just like you and I, who knows what goes on with you from one day to another that could affect your ability to positively participate in a program like this. Translators for language and the social aspect of bringing these people together, not only just to work with the program, learn about the program or technology, but just having a welcome place where they can come, exchange ideas with other parents, and just bond with that type of community. Implementation. This had to be one of the most interesting portions of our grant. The planning that went involved, because we split this grant between ourselves and Princeton Community Schools, which is another school district, and we had over $7 million to spend. How are we going to spend $7 million within 6 months? And that was the requirement that we had to take into consideration what software we're going to use, how we're going to launch our program, and anything else that was necessary. So as I mentioned before, we made road trips out to the different buildings, talked to the principals and their tech coordinators, and said, hey, listen, what would you like? Here's what we've got and the reasons why, but we have all this money that's going to support this program for 5 years. The flexibility in going back and re-meeting with those buildings and what they think is going to work, what they have, and the ongoing communication as all this panned out, and we refined our lists and refined our planning as it applies to technology, was obviously an ongoing thing, but was very critical in what our final product was going to look like. And as always, we plan to have translators regardless of what the subject matter was that we were going to be teaching or supporting. Technology, implementation, support, and results. These three key areas. We figured out the technology portion of it very early on. The challenge and the exciting part was, how are we going to do this? And I mentioned the pilot schools before. I would highly recommend that. You'll find out very early on what's going to work and what doesn't, and how it works, more importantly, and how it doesn't work. And once you've got that part figured out, or you're working on that part, how am I going to be able to provide ongoing implementation and support of this program? How am I going to continue to gather these parents and be able to reach out to them, to bring them in, and they know that, hey, it's not a one-time shot. You're gonna be able to have access to these technologists in residence. You're going to be able to have access to this program. If you have a problem, there's a solution that can be provided for that. And we expected outstanding results from the very beginning. That expectation was a key factor in our success and our ongoing success, because we knew that we were going to have to continually fine tune in order to get our expectation of the results that we wanted. And the ongoing interaction between the teachers, the principals, the support staff within the school, and within our own organization is done on a regular basis. It's done on an ad hoc basis. It's actually done anytime anyone has a question, they reach out to us, and we try and provide a solution to that as quickly as possible. Let's talk about parental involvement as it relates to leveraging technology. And I'm going to point out devices. As I said before, many of our parents may not have technology in the form of a computer that's at home, but they most certainly, a large percentage of them have a smartphone. And that has been a very early recognized critical factor in overcoming the lack of technology in a home. If they have a smartphone, not only the parent, but also the child, if they can work those things out at home, can have access to the program through that smartphone. It's skills training for the parents. I want to touch on that again, how critical that is. There's nothing more disheartening than knowing that I've got something that's going to work very, very well for me, the feeling that I have as a parent, but experiencing difficulty in navigating through this program because I don't have basic computer skills. And accessibility, regardless of where they're at, was just such an exciting thing that they could get to Rosetta Stone no matter where they're at, what time it was, as long as they had an internet access. The impact of our program was universally positive, not only for the parents, but also for those buildings involved, because the teachers could set this up any way they wanted to for their students. But the parents knew that they had a resource within those buildings that had as much concern and optimism for their education learning English as for their students. We empowered the parents with that knowledge, and more importantly, with the experience to accomplish our collective goals for them, and reached out to the communities that they lived in to see if we could better facilitate the ability and the opportunity for our parents. And we gave them purpose and develop pride, let them develop pride in themselves so that they would feel comfortable in recognizing that, yes, there's a tool out there that I can learn English. I don't have to rely on friends or family to be able to do this. I could sit by myself and have a program that I could go through in addition to any other assets that they may be able to tap in to learn English. And at the present time, we've got over 727 English language learning parents in our program. You'll see the FL 503 down here. We have 503 what I call general education parents, those parents within our school district that have English-speaking kids in our classes. We opened it up once we got settled down and got our ESL parents going to the entire parent population in Cincinnati Public Schools. And at this point, we've got 503 parents of those general education students that are learning a foreign language. And it was a choice of any language that we had support from Rosetta Stone for that they could learn. So I had requests for Italian because I'm going to be taking a vacation next month or in a couple of months. We ran the gamut of all the different languages. Our ESL student population at this point is almost 2,900. Foreign language, the FL once again is for our general education students that wanted to learn a foreign language, regardless of whether they were involved in a foreign language class at that time, or even if they weren't and they wanted to learn a foreign language. We opened it up to all of our student population in addition to our ESL students. And currently, we've got almost 10,000 students using this program and have accounts to learn a foreign language. And our teachers and staff, over 1,700 of our teachers and staff are currently using Rosetta Stone in its entirety to learn a foreign language. Now, we had so many parents that were so involved. We had a very difficult time looking for and determining a parent who was, if you could say, the epitome of success and excitement within our story. And we chose Karina from Mexico. She has 3 children that are in our district. She's been participating in this program from day one. We're on our 2nd year right now. She was kind of what would you call her? A founding parent with our parent program. And her motivations to learning English were universal. She wanted to be able to help her children in school. So many of our parents have expressed to their students' teachers that they would love to be able to support their kids, would love to be able to help them out with homework, but not having an understanding and the ability of speaking English is so much of a deterrent that was a prime motivating factor in a number of parents. Her English has improved. She used to take her kids with her grocery shopping to do translations. She used to take her children with her if there was some banking business, for example, or if there was any need that Karina thought she might need translation, she would take her kids. She no longer has to. She can do this on her own. She can do this knowing that she's got the necessary tools to be able to accomplish these things on her own. And her outlook has completely changed as it applies to the feeling of belonging in her community. And she can do more things for herself and for her family now than she ever could in the past. Lessons learned. I like this one, probably the best. Small things done with great love can change the world of our ESL families. And I have to say that the group that I work with, our Technologist-in-Residence program, are so passionate about bringing this to the parents and to their students that it's palatable. You can see, if you were to observe our TIRs working with parents and students, you would see that immediately. You would see the love that they have for what they're doing and the love for the objectives of this program, this grant. And they're critically involved in ongoing communication and support with our parents as well as our students. And I can't say enough about communication and about ongoing support so that everyone involved, students and parents, knows that, hey, Jack's out there to help me. I've got Leonard Roberts that's there to answer questions and help guide me through some confusing part of the program. And the flexibility that's required really in making this thing fly the way we want it to fly is critical. My car is packed with everything that I need to do a presentation of any kind, whether it's technology training, whether it's Rosetta Stone, at any place that I need to go. And I've been to some pretty interesting places to do that. And the results have always been outstanding. And I'll use Nancy Sullivan at Education Matters. The first time I taught her a group there for her, I brought my projector in and we shot the projector up on a white painted brick wall as a screen and had 8 parents there. And we spent, I don't know, about a half hour, maybe an hour with a couple of parents learning just basic education or basic computer skills. And then we got into Rosetta Stone. And it wasn't a day later that she sent me an email and said, Jack, I have 5 new parents because the family member told another family member, told a friend about the program. And so I have an ongoing communication with Nancy that she gives me the information necessary to set up accounts for her clients who are parents of CPS school students because of word of mouth, simply because of word of mouth. To learn about a little more about our what we've done here in Cincinnati, there's a case study. There's a link if you want to go to that and learn more about what we're doing. Very informative, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. There are also a number of different publications and things that we have been noted for within our district on this topic and this idea of how do we get to parents of ESL students. So please take a look at that if you have some time. And I also want to once again mention Maria Kobayashi, who's the driving force behind this, who is the heart and soul within our district to make this thing the success that it is. She was recently recognized as a finalist within the EdTech Digest Awards, and wanted to make you aware of how proud we are of her because of all the time that she has spent and all the brain power she's put into this.
Jack, before we start the comments and questions session, I'd love for us to go ahead and do a quick poll of our group here. So Regina, when you're ready, we can go ahead and get that poll going. All right, our first question on our poll is, what grades do you teach? And while we're doing our poll, please go ahead and start entering your questions on the chat box. So it's looking like, and I missed it, so it's looking like 32% of you guys are teaching elementary school. We're going to go to our next question. Oops, yeah. Go ahead, Regina. Tell us how you heard about this webinar today. Was it through Rosetta Stone email, through Rosetta Stone blog, through Rosetta Stone Facebook, Rosetta Stone Twitter, or EdWeb email and social outreaches? All right, wonderful. I think we're good there. So 70% of you came through EdWeb. That's good to hear. Let's go for our next question. How important is parental involvement to the scholastic achievement of your students? I think we're really good there. Extremely important, and we all agree. And I think that does it for our polling today. So we can go ahead and start with our Q&A session. I'll be looking through the chat box to kind of gather all of the questions, and I have some here that I've already gathered. Let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and post it for you in the chat box, Jack, and then also address it. So I'm putting it here, and I'll send it to the group of presenters, so bear with me. So that's our first question, Jack, and it's kind of a preface, so it's about how increasing parental involvement may hinder on a child's ability to create independence in education. What are your thoughts around that?
Hinder child's ability. I don't think there's a hindrance there at all. My experience, we have found that the parent's involvement in learning as well as the child becomes a family thing. It becomes almost like a team effort on the part of the child as well as the parent. There's excitement in a a sense of accomplishment from the parent, and I don't think it hinders the child's education at all. I think it's in fact, it's probably a lot more enlightening for the parent because they now understand what the child's going through in their schoolwork at school.
So we have another question. How do you assess student proficiency levels on RS? And I think that can be a joint answer between Jack and Brian. We brought Brian on board from our sales team just to ensure that we're able to provide you with details specific to any kind of implementation questions. So Jack, how do you address that?
I've set up all the teachers that I've created classes for. They have teacher access, which is an administrative access that they can go in and generate reports based on usage or based on where the child or their class is at within the structure of Rosetta Stone, how far they've gotten along, what percentage of the lessons that they have accomplished and what their grade score is. So the teachers have been given and trained with capacity to go in and look at reports for an individual student or for the entire class so that they can ascertain for themselves what the child may need or what the child is doing well in the future and also for current assessment situations.
Next question. How do you involve working parents?
Flexibility. I have a number of different groups where parents work second or third shift. I do everything that I can to be able to be present. If we can set up a meeting, we can set up training for them. So it's a matter of an asset such as myself being given that flexibility, which the grant does. I mean, I'm dedicated to this, so I don't find it a problem at all to be working late hours or to be working very early hours or have to go across town. It's a pleasure to be able to do this. It's something that I find that I get a lot out of. So flexibility and preparation to be able to do whatever the request is and as much as possible on their time frame and as close to them as possible.
Jack, I think there was a couple of people also that wanted to learn more about the grant. So I know we put your email up there. So I will suggest that those that are interested in learning more about the grant that Cincinnati Public Schools leverage, just reach out to you directly to gather more information and details around those specific subjects. I saw, and I haven't seen any additional, let me see here. I see one here coming. Let's see if I can just post it over. Bear with me for 1 second. All right, so how do you place Rosetta Stone students in language classes at the high school level? And I think that's more Brian focused.
Right. We have several strategies that you can use to do that. There are some placement activities within Rosetta Stone. There's a placement curricula. We also recommend having them go through the core lessons and kind of see where their scores start to drop off. And then they would kind of be placed in, in that part of the program. Some teachers can look at the scope and sequence and say, you know what, this is where my kids are. So we really have a lot of strategies, to help place students in, at the high school level when they have some language foundation.
And I also wanted to address, I saw a comment earlier that was mentioning that that Rosetta Stone was not adequate enough to qualify for high school credit as it requires grammar, and Rosetta Stone is conversational. And I think that, there's a misperception there in terms of what product offerings we have out there, mainly because our solution has two pieces to it. So we have our foundations and we have our advantage. And the advantage side of our solution actually offers more of that grammar piece and enhanced vocabulary and advanced language skill sets that perhaps a lot of you may not be aware based on what you know of our program. And Brian, you can kind of add on to that if you have anything else to add.
No, I think that's great. I think, the purpose of foundations is to really get the kids comfortable with the language and, as it's called, to give them a foundation of the language. And whenever they're ready to move on to advantage. That's when they're really to kind of dig into the whys of the language. Why is this rule like that? Why is that grammar rule like that? I don't think, at the beginning, I don't necessarily think learners are really ready for all of that. And I think that's why in foundations, we focus on grammar a little bit. But again, when they get to the level that they can use Rosetta Stone foundations, that's where they can really dive in and get those grammar rules figured out and understand the why behind them.
And then I'll address one more point from Libya. She had mentioned that it was so important for any foreign language class to really leverage conversation skills. And, we can't agree more with you. And I think that that's where, our product in a classroom integration type of environment really comes into play, because what we hear from foreign language teachers all the time is that there's not enough time within the classroom to enable all students to really engage in conversation and participation. So that's where having something like Rosetta Stone so that they can continue to enhance their practice and conversation really comes into play in alignment with what you're already doing in your classroom. And I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to browse through and see if I'm missing anything, but I think we kind of did a pretty good job in addressing the key questions that were there. And of course, you can reach Jack Aylsworth if you have additional questions for him. And if you need to reach out to us here at Rosetta Stone, you can reach out to me by emailing me at tmas@rosettastone.com, or you can reach us through our website, rosettastone.com/K12. We'd love to let you know more about the solutions that we offer, not just for parental involvement, but also for word languages and ELL and adult ed in general. Thank you for being here today. And want to share with you not to forget about your CE certificates. So as we mentioned, if you're attending live, you will receive it right after the webinar within 24 hours. If you're just viewing the recording, then you will have to do a small quiz. The same thing goes for those that have actually logged in using your phones. So you can access the information through our community. And again, we thank you for being here with us today. And I hope that you found this information valuable. And again, thank you for our Cincinnati Public School partnership. And you have a great afternoon.